Hello and welcome to IT Chronicles 10 and Tech podcast. I'm Shane Carlson. I'm here with my co-hosts Carlos Casanova and Kathleen Wilson. And today we have with us Jay Srinivasan from Spoke. Jay, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome,
Excellent.
Jay.
So you guys describe yourself at Spoke as a simpler, smarter service desk. And did I get that right, or is it smarter, simpler? What's the catchphrase? What does that mean to you?
It's interchangeable. It can be simpler, smarter, or smarter, simpler. But yeah, we started Spoke a little less than a year ago, and we're trying to come at this space, the ITSM space, or sort of the service management space as a whole, as outsiders. And when we looked at the space, the opportunity that we saw was to build tools that were, as we've said, simpler to use, simpler for the agent, simpler for their managers, but also simpler for the end user. If I have a request, I shouldn't have to go log into a corporate portal and file a ticket. I should be able to send in a text, or I should be able to jump on Slack and ask a question. So simpler in terms of design and usability. Smarter because we also think there's an immense opportunity to apply machine learning techniques to internal requests in an organization to learn both who knows answers as well as what the answer is to given questions. And so we've been building this for the last year, and we're trying to build a super easy to use ticketing system that learns and starts auto-responding.
So Jay, can you dig a little bit more into that AI machine learning aspect? Because that's obviously a really hot topic these days. So can you kind of describe a little bit more how exactly you guys are looking to leverage that?
Absolutely. AI is just a very broad term. And so specifically when it comes to tickets in a ticketing system, be it ServiceNow, be it Jira Service Desk or something like that, one of the big challenges is the amount of actual noise in given tickets. Take a super simple request like, what's the guest Wi-Fi password? The way different people are going to ask that question in different ways. Different people are going to answer that question in different ways. Even if the answer itself is the same, the way they respond is going to be different. The phrasing they use is going to be different. There might be clarifying questions in between. And so taking a situation where you have a bunch of tickets and you're trying to extract the right answer from them is actually a very complex problem that requires a significant amount of data. Our approach is to do something much simpler, driven by our simple design. What we allow you to do is, in the process of responding to a request, we allow you to say, look, the answer that I'm giving is useful. And it's a very deliberate, human-driven process where an agent specifically says, learn the answer to this question, and this is the answer. So the specific approach that we take is called human curated or human-in-the-loop AI. The benefit is it tends to learn much, much quicker than existing ticketing systems, than standard machine learning on existing ticketing corpuses. And we actually think that's going to be a huge differentiator just because of how hard it is to actually just learn from tickets.
Excellent. And so you mentioned design, and you mentioned being newcomers to the ITSM space, and I know you guys just attended the SIT show in London recently. Tell us, as newcomers and outsiders to the ITSM space, what are kind of your observations of the current players in the space and the space in general?
Yeah, so we were at SITs as attendees last week in London, and one of the things that I just want to emphasize on from the start, especially as outsiders, is essentially how welcoming, how passionate, and sort of how well connected the ITSM community is. It was everyone welcomed us with open arms. Everyone knew everyone else. There was a genuine desire to embrace new technology and evolve in the space. So it was just it's a great space to be participating in. So we're very happy about that. Looking at most of the players in the space and looking at the conference attendees and the booths, et cetera, I'd say the big thing that I realized was more and more, if you look at the players in the space, they're trying to differentiate through sales versus differentiate through product. Essentially, how big is your booth? What type of swag do you give away? How many consultants do you need to bring in to make your solution successful seems to be the mantra. Versus everyone, and it was actually fascinating. As I was like walking down the aisles, you have all these big monitors and everyone's doing their demo. To some degree, you almost couldn't tell the difference between the different demos. It was the same ticket creation process. It was all about the booth. And so I think we have an opportunity to say, look, we are differentiating on product. We're a startup. We're not going to be able to differentiate on sales. We're going to differentiate on product. We're going to differentiate on design. We're going to differentiate on who we serve. both mid-market, not just enterprise customers, but also not just IT, but HR, office admin, legal, biz ops. So I think there tends to be a little bit of concentration in how people are actually selling in ITSM right now.
I have a question about how you've changed, like going more from a customer experience or customer excitement. Would that be because the audience of the customer is changing? Like we've got more millennials in the workplace, their expectations, like you mentioned tools like Slack. Our traditional ITSM folks are not Slack users, right? They're limited on social media and how they connect. So what made you think of changing the perspective as an organization or as a company to the audience?
That's a great question, and I think like everything that you said is spot on. So essentially, I named the stat that you want to call, like by 2020, half of all people that are working in an organization are folks that have actually that have been born with a cell phone in their hand, right? So there is an expectation at the end user to have more convenient modes of communication, be it SMS or Slack or an Alexa that you're talking to. So there's part of it is you want to build tools that are actually usable by the end user. I mean, even if you take something like Salesforce, somebody that's just coming out of college right now, when they go look at the Salesforce interface, it's not going to be familiar to them. They're used to Snapchat, they're used to text. So there's one part of it is that. The other thing that I think that's equally important though is the complete fragmentation of cloud services and data stores to end users. So central IT is no longer going to be able to see all the data and all the tools people are using. So you need a solution. So Spoke is both easy to use, but the way our product is designed, we allow you to connect any backend tool to it. And so I think it's going to be a combination of millennial expectations coupled with a complete fragmentation of tools and data stores within an organization that are not controlled by central IT. So you need something that can be adopted virally from smaller sub-teams within a company versus saying, hey, IT is going to start using this, everyone should use it now.
Yeah, I think the expectation of how people work has changed dramatically in the last couple of years, and we're seeing the tools in the enterprise space actually catch up. I mean, you get people who want to be able to work from their phones, from anywhere in the world, from their car, perhaps, and that expectation is very real and very realistic for a large part of the workforce today. So
right, and I mean, I think the challenge there is especially for established larger organizations, they're still looking at workforces that have 3 different generations. So you can't flip, just overnight and say, hey, we're going to go purely to these handheld devices, because it doesn't obviously work. And along those lines, Jay, I guess with that approach in terms of design and whatnot, the service management space has traditionally been fairly enterprise heavy. It doesn't sound like that's something that you guys are really looking at or maybe consciously trying to get around and offer alternative. Is that a fair statement?
In the short term, yes. So I think so first of all, you're spot on. You have like 3-4 different generations of folks using ticketing, right? That's actually the cool part about the ITSM space. Everyone in the organization is involved. The way we approach that is not to say, look, the only way to use this is through a Snapchat interface or something like that. You can also use Spoke through email or SMS, like whatever or the web interface. So whatever interface that is convenient to you, that's what Spoke is built for, and we're able to talk to all of them. The enterprise aspect is, I think, more a function of it's a function of where there's white space as we see it. We see white space outside of the enterprise. Ticketing is useful to a 500-person company as well as a 50,000-person company. Ticketing is useful to your office admin as well as your IT person. So there's a lot of white space outside of enterprise IT. But as a startup, it is a lot easier for us to, in an agile, quick way, to iterate on our product, to learn when we're working with the 500-person company than when we're working with the 50,000-person company. And so part of it is also, let's nail what we're doing from a design, intelligence, and usability perspective with smaller customers. Get really good at what we do, establish a brand, establish a marketing presence, and then we'll work our way up versus trying to go sell next to ServiceNow or BMC or Cherwell or whatever at a larger company on day one.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Jay, I appreciate you joining us today. I really think you guys are hitting the market at the right time with a very good product and a very good message, especially the focus on design and accessibility. I've been a big proponent of experiential, what I call experiential support, which means support people where they work and kind of how they do work every day. So it's refreshing to see people getting into that space and kind of taking some of that along the way. So again, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you in the industry.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.